Welcome to part 5 in our Journey to Solo, a Star Wars story series. Today we'll be going through the last book in the Han Solo trilogy, Rebel Dawn by A.C. Crispin. Where the first book explored Han's childhood and formative years, this book finishes bridging the gap to A New Hope. Today I'll run through the basic plot and discuss if any of it might be relevant to the upcoming film. If you haven't watched the videos I've done about the Han Solo adventures, the Paradise Snare, or the Hutt Gambit, I'd watch those first. Rebel Dawn picks up very shortly after the Hutt Gambit. Having lost their ship and way of making money, Han and Chewie head to a high-stakes sabacc tournament on Cloud City. They risk everything they have to enter, and they wind up winning it all against Lando in the last hand. As part of Lando's wager, Han won the right to choose any ship sitting in his friend's used lot. Han claims the Millennium Falcon on a technicality that it was currently parked there, although not for sale. Lando isn't happy about it, but gives in. Han then makes good on a promise to Chewbacca, and once they pick up the Falcon, they head to Kashyyyk, and Chewie immediately marries Malla. Meanwhile, Han's first love, Bria, is involved in organizing the early Rebel Alliance, moderating discussions between Corellia, Alderaan, and more planets. She's also the commander of Red Hand Squadron, who have attacked Ulesia and their slave trade without mercy. Her actions lead the Hutts to place a bounty on her head. Boba Fett finds her, and she asks that he tell her father that she's died when the time comes. Fett agrees, but then Lando winds up saving her, foiling the bounty hunter for a second time in 2 books. Han and Chewie go back to Nar Shaddaa to modify the Falcon. Han grows close with another smuggler named Salla, who has a brush with death and then decides to marry Han, whether he wants to or not. To avoid a wedding that she is planning with or without him, Han and Chewie head to the corporate sector where the events of the Han Solo adventures unfold. Durga the Hutt learns that his father was murdered by Jiliak the Hutt and challenges her to single combat. He kills her, leaving Jabba in charge of his Hutt clan. Jabba immediately teams up with Bria and her group to arrange for the destruction of Durga's Ulesian operation. When Han returns to Nar Shaddaa, he runs into Bria, and they're able to catch up. Bria offers Han and the smugglers a role in her mission in exchange for their pick of spice and treasure to sell. Many agree, and as they spend more time together, Han and Bria admit that they are still in love. In a joint effort, Jabba hires bounty hunters to kill all the Ulesian priests right before the rebel attack. Though they suffer some losses, they are victorious and many slaves are rescued. But Bria and the rebels betray the smugglers and deny them any claim to the valuables they fought for. The rebellion had just learned about the Death Star and desperately needed any resources they could get their hands on. The smugglers, including Lando, believe that Han is part of the betrayal. Heartbroken by Bria for the second time in his life, Han leaves her. Jabba then offers Han a job picking up some spice from Kessel. He is immediately chased by Imperials and forced to dump the cargo. After the Falcon is boarded, he and Chewie try to go pick it up again, but it's gone. The Imperials show up, waiting for his return, and chase him through the Kessel Run. Han escapes and winds up setting a new record for speed and distance, although Chewie believes the instruments were disrupted and not reading properly. Jabba is furious about the lost cargo, and Han travels to Tatooine to try to explain things. Bria takes part in the Battle of Taprawa, which was just one part of the larger mission to steal the plans for the Death Star. She and her team are killed. Boba Fett, of all people, tracks down Han to tell him that Bria is dead and requests that he contact her father. He does, and then goes to the local cantina where Chewie informs him that he may have worked out a deal to fly an old man and a kid to Alderaan. I really liked all 3 of these books. I've said this every week, but again, this was my first time through them. So, was there anything in there I think might be relevant to Solo, a Star Wars story? Well, first up, we're almost definitely going to see the sabacc game in which Han wins the Falcon from Lando. I think that'll play out differently because the whole used ship lot makes sense for the book, having it all set up, but I bet it'll be much more straightforward in the movie. In one of the Star Wars comics, Han pretty much confirmed that he cheated in the game, and at least suspected Lando was cheating as well. I think it would be great to see them both trying to out-cheat each other and not get caught. The actual tournament in the book is written very well. I knew how everything wound up already, but my heart was still pounding. If that scene is half as good as it is in the book, we're in for a real treat. Lando and Han are great together in this book, period. They're friendly, but there is a competition to them. Donald Glover said that Han and Lando have very similar personalities, just different styles. Of course, he's talking about the movie, but it works for the book as well. I can't wait to see their interactions on screen. I'm expecting we'll get an explanation for Lando's possible anger towards Han and The Empire Strikes Back. The book gave a good reason, but again, I think it'll definitely be changed for the movie. Maybe it has to do with Han cheating to win the Falcon, or maybe it's something during the heist, I don't know. I just think Han will do something to make Lando very angry. Han mentions his dreams of fixing up the Falcon in the book, and that made me laugh since we know how much dirtier the ship looks under Han's care. But he of course means fixing up the Falcon's internal systems. We get to see Han make a number of modifications, like turning a single cannon turret into quad cannon turrets, and it looks like that's a change that'll be made in canon as well. We might not see it on screen, but the ship definitely gets a weapon upgrade. Also, Han specifically says that the Millennium Falcon's beat-up appearance was one of her strongest assets in catching opponents unaware. A piece in Entertainment Weekly said something very similar about the Cannon Falcon and the reasoning behind Han letting it turn into a quote-unquote piece of junk. Lando wanted a stylish place to entertain guests. Han wants a smuggling ship, and he wants people to underestimate it. I like that reasoning a lot. Jumping over to the Kessel Run, we have plenty of evidence to suggest that we'll see Han's famous 12-parsec run. I've said before that I was always a fan of the idea that Han was just trying to sound impressive and failed, and caused Obi-Wan to roll his eyes. I think we're going to see Han actually pull off a 12-parsec run, but I hope there is some twist to it. I don't want it to be that simple, and I actually really liked what the book did. The whole thing is ambiguous. The instruments may have actually been messed up, and Han saw 12 parsecs and was like, yep, I totally did that. And Chewie is sitting right there like, dude, I don't think so. Han is just stubborn, and it's funny to me to think that only a few days later, Han brags about doing the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs, and not only does Obi-Wan roll his eyes, but Chewie is right next to him going, oh really, this again? Shifting gears a bit, Bria's betrayal at the end of the story is rough. We don't know much about Qi'ra in the movie right now, but she has been described as a femme fatale. I think we could expect a betrayal from her as well. Whether or not she and Han were ever lovers is up for debate, but either way, I think something like that would shatter his ability to trust. Speaking of Bria, I loved seeing her Red Hand Squadron and her part in the theft of the Death Star plans. Her soldiers and her attitude reminded me a lot of Saw Gerrera and the Partisans, and seeing her final mission was very reminiscent of Rogue One. They were stranded on the planet Taprawa after transmitting the plans to the Tantive 4 in orbit. And now for something I hope we don't get in Solo this May. I don't want it to end mere moments before Han is introduced in A New Hope. That ending mostly works for the book, but I feel like the stuff with Bria should have taken place much earlier. He should be reeling from betrayal and loss when he meets Leia. Assuming Han is shaken by some betrayal and loss in the movie, I want him to have some recovery time before meeting Luke. Not to mention, I just want this to be a standalone film like Rogue One. Han and Chewie and Lando are the only familiar characters I really want. I'll get behind Boba Fett or Jabba playing some sort of role, but used sparingly. And I hope there are a good 5 years or so between Solo and A New Hope. The last thing I want to mention about this book that I thought was cool has nothing to do with the movie, but I loved how the Han Solo adventures were incorporated into the story. They were summarized and referenced in interludes that built on those stories and treated them with respect. It was really nice, and I'd say it's a strong argument for why I usually recommend stories be read in order of release and not chronologically. The whole trilogy had little Easter eggs from the Han Solo adventures that you don't need to catch to enjoy the stories, but are really fun and rewarding to notice. The entire Han Solo trilogy was just a fun ride. A.C. Crispin wrote some great stories, and I'm kicking myself for not reading them 20 years ago. I think Solo: A Star Wars Story will show us some dramatically different events from Han's past, but I hope the tone is similar to these books. They're just fun and lighthearted with some heavy turns scattered throughout. Funny, but occasionally sad. It's just a good balance that I hope the movie can replicate. But that's it for today. Next week we're going to cover the Lando Calrissian adventures now that we've gone through most of Han's Legends history. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and consider checking out my Patreon page. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.